Braden here again with second place.
Again. Brandon sacked me out. So, first deck that I used, first the gifts. I used 2 Protect, 3 Force, 3 Accel. First ride is pretty much always Accel, and then if you need it, you go into the Force gifts for certain matchups. Mostly if you have enough pressure, if you have enough rear guards. The Protects are mostly there just to be there, just in case against like D Police or something if I don't have PGs in hand. Any big things that gain crits that I can't guard from Vanguard swings. But I never really had to grab them in my matchups. So I went against Aqua Force, Royals, let's see, your D Police, Grand Blue twice, and Dark Irregulars. And I lost a few of them in the first round, but then I would 2-0 on the comeback a lot of times for the second deck. But this is the first deck that won most of the games. It's Neo Nectar. So, as always, we run draw a card on ride. Always good. Every deck runs it. Love it. Grade 3s. For Cecilia. In this format, because you have the Accel marker, Cecilia works really well just because of the 3 units in the front row gaining 10k. And it wasn't very bad to first ride her either. Especially if I knew I had a second Cecilia in hand or I was about to draw a lot. First riding Cecilia wasn't too much of an issue because I was also able to rush and put most of my opponents to 5 on grade 2 with the deck. So Cecilia was a great finisher. Lets you just sit there and tank out matches. It's really good. Lets you win. We run 4 Tomato. Tomato's a lot of your power and card draw in the late game. Getting rid of those plant tokens and then calling more for boosters for the Corellia Dragon, just getting more power on that helps a lot. And then just the card draw. It's the main reason why you run the 4 of. I didn't ride Tomato at all in the format, with the multi-gift format, just because he wanted more units on Accel circles, because getting Accel out early is important in the format. We run, for the last of the grade 3s, we run 2 trailing rows. I really wanted this to be my first ride every game because getting a plant token on the Accel circle and then giving it an extra 5k is a really good first turn. It's a 20k swing just on the Accel circle. And your opponent will pretty much always leave it alone because it's a plant token, so it just really works out. And then having it in Soul enables Cecilia's second part of her skill. So just a really good first ride. Also really good for calling because you have more circles with Accels. You can have more plant tokens on the field, and you would just enable more of your plays.
That extra 10k on Accel is very scary.
Oh yeah. Grade 2s. We are running 4 of the Sylvia. Funny enough, I never really rode Sylvia. She was not my main grade 2 ride. She was really good, and I mostly called her off Cecilia's skill. I didn't see her very much early game, but calling a plant token is really good. It's a 15k column by itself. It makes another column of 5k. It just creates a 5k booster. Plus, having a 10k base is amazing because we're a Force clan. We're running 4 of the Tree Sage. This is a lot of your early game pressure. This is one of the big reasons why I was able to push people to 5 early. Plus it just refunds itself for calling, and having a 25k swing that just drew me a card is amazing. Even if the opponent defensively triggers, it still hits, which that's just really good. That forces early guarding or early damage on the opponent for basically no cost. Running 3 of the promo. This is actually my primary ride for most of the game. Because by turn 1, or after turn 1, I actually usually had 1, and most of the times 2 plant tokens on field. Calling this made 2 more plant tokens, giving me a total of 4 5K units on the field, which let me enable anything I wanted going into grade 3, and as well as rushing with the Tree Sage. Yeah, it's a good card. It's super good. It's why it's expensive. But it was my primary ride. Her skill works on Vanguard Circle, and duplicating tokens to basically create a field out of absolutely nothing is amazing. So grade 1s. We're running for the Rebecca. I'm still not the biggest fan of this card. I do like the 5K that it gives when I call it off superior calls. That's always nice. The bounce I only used once, and when I did, it wasn't the best move because it turned off a tomato effectively, and it denied me a draw instead of just getting this 10K. But mostly it's a grade 1 with 10K shield. She's actually a really good first ride because you're not doing too much on first ride. Aside from calling plant tokens, which she doesn't do, unfortunately. But she's a good, that 5K pump's nice. This I hardly ever saw, the Merca. This usually is, if you're playing normally, this would be your best your best grade 1 ride, because it just calls 1 plant token out. But I actually never, I did ride her once, but I didn't use her skill. The 3K is nice, but mostly in this deck, she was just a 10K shield grade 1 that was on the field a lot of times as a booster. 2 Corellia Dragon. This just lets your columns get big as you're calling a lot of units, especially with an Accel Circle, with plant tokens, Cecilia, cloning units. So it gets big. I could probably bump it up to 3 or maybe 4, cutting a few other grade 1s. And then we run 3 Fruits Basket Elf. This is my main grade 1 play, or basically using my Soul Blast for this instead of the other grade 1 lets me get 2 plant tokens, and if I'm going first, that's a 20K column that I'm swinging with, so a defensive trigger doesn't change, can still hit. But I use this, and then I would clone the 2 and end up with 4 plant tokens going into grade 2, which is a lot of rush that a lot of decks can't handle at the early game. Well, it cost me a Soul Blast and my 1 card from hand, effectively, that I could probably refund with the Tree Sage. So that was the typical ideal play for the deck. This just enabled so much for this, and I'll probably bump it up to 4 actually. Then we get to triggers. We're running 4 heal, 4 of the draw PG, and 8 crits. It's a crit deck. We had the option to run fronts in this, which it could have been a possibility. However, I needed to give, because I'm not giving Cecilia her own 10K boost, I want them to still guard Cecilia, so I don't want to run fronts. I'd rather have the pressure 8 crit.
Gotcha.
So it's a crit deck. It works. And then, of course, we run
A lot of token.
lots and lots of plant tokens. This is a zoo player here. Too bad I wasn't 3-deck format, because I would also play Mega Colony. So we can see from my nice tokens. So, first off, draw a card. There's no other options. You draw a card.
You can play a huge trigger.
You can play a heal trigger. So we're running 4 Leopold. Leopold is pretty much your second ride, and your second ride only. Second ride and on, effectively. This deck, you basically played it as normal Great Nature, so you got your Accels. You just kept getting Accels. There was a situation where I did go into Force, which worked out really nicely in a sort of weird scenario. But you run 4 Leopold, his skill's really good. You call a field from absolutely no reason whatsoever. Second grade 3 was Bison, and he is probably the main star of the deck. He is your first ride. He lets you get the restand, and we have a lot of on attack and on hit skills in this deck. We're not running the Hamsuke ride chain, so we have the space for Bison. Again, you get the Accel gift. You call either Geograph to the Accel, the on hit to the Accel. You have a restanding Binoculus Tiger. All of them are scary. 5K in a restand is really good, and it pushes really hard on first ride when Leopold can't do the same thing, basically. So 4 of those.
One tech.
One tech, I will probably bump this up, but it's the gift list grade 3. This came in really huge for 2 of my games. Basically, on my 3rd ride, this thing is basically the equivalent of hitting 2 front triggers before my drive checks, while I already have 5 front row units. Most decks cannot handle plus 20k to the front row before drive checks, and that closes games really handily. I would probably bump him up a little bit more if I had a little bit more space, or if I was looking at the deck a little bit more, but he was really good for closing out 2 of my games as a solid finisher. Grade 2s, we're running 4 Binoculus Tiger.
Best on the deck.
Yep, it's great nature. You're running Binoculus. It draws cards. It retires your opponent's cards. It gives your front row power. It works on Vanguard Circle. It does everything that you need to. It activates Tank Mouse. It lets you early game rush if you hit the 5K a little bit more, but mostly he's there for draw, and he uses your counter blast. So he's good. We are running 4 of the on-hit Soul Blast 1 and draw card. This is an absolute menace when people let it hit, or when people can't guard it. This I can, if I'm going first, going into grade 2 while they're at 8k base, this I usually have a booster on it. It's a 16 that they have to drop at least 10k to not let it hit. Or if I get it onto an Accel circle, it's a 18 and then a 23, which is really hard to deal with because it also just draws cards for the soul that I'm not using for anything else really. Really good pressure. It prevents people from just eating damage off of you without any drawbacks. We're running 4 Geograph Giant. He's 27 on an Accel circle. That can rescan to be 32 with Bison. He's really good. It's continuous 17k on defense too, so people won't swing at it. It's a really good card. It restands, and it's terrifying on first grade 3 ride. Running 2 Tank Mouse. This lets you selectively grab stuff that you mill. It keeps your hands stocked with things that you need, whether it be triggers for guarding the next turn or getting Geograph Giants for your open Accel circles or grade 3 rides for the following turn. It just grabs you what you want. I should probably have more, but I have not whiffed on Tank Mouse while running it at 2 of, so I keep it at 2. We run 2 Stamp Otter, mostly for Kagero and specifically Shadow Paladin matchups.
Did you face any?
I did not face any of those 2 clans. It basically just can't be retired. It's always an 8k booster that just can't be retired. This really shafts over Shadow Paladin. Just having 1 or even 2 out shuts down their entire game plan and their advantage state that they have on you. Which, when they get their next wave of support, this is definitely probably going to stay in and maybe even go up to 3.
Ooh, yeah.
And then we run a lot of grade 1s, a lot of variety. We run 4 Binoculus Tiger. The counterparts of Binoculus and Leopold, for the Soul Blast, you get some guard restrict. It mostly just adds a little bit of extra pressure onto some columns. Having this restand isn't very good. I've tried that multiple times where I have it on the Accel circle and I try restanding it and then using double guard restricts. It doesn't work as well. The guard restricts aren't the most constricting. especially since it cannot be used with Leopold's 15 and crit.
Oh, okay.
It has to boost a rear guard. But it's nice to have. It's a good booster with a 10k shield. So it's a good card. It goes in the deck. It turns on Tank Mouse as well. That's another big thing. And we run 4 of the Silver Wolf. This is a big thing that can be cut out, but it's basically just a 12k booster. That's all it does. 4k while in the back row. It's just a big booster. And then on the triggers, we run Rainbow triggers. 4 crit, 4 front, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Bumping up to 8 crit or 8 front might be more efficient, but I like the rainbow triggers because it mixes up the threat options that you have. Plus, when you have crits and on hits, it creates a really tough scenario for your opponents. And then ripping fronts in this deck when you already have 10k to the front row is absolutely
Pretty
devastating.
good. Plus with the mouse.
Yeah, with the mouse, it's really good. Defensive triggers, hitting defensive fronts is also amazing. So yeah, that's the deck. Second place.